am I? But
CHS.
it is a joy to have Karen here this afternoon. She is our executive director of the Grand Bahama YMCA.
Hmm.
And Karen was actually volunteering her efforts there a long, long time ago, I think from 1986.
Yes.
And following Terry Goldsmith, who retired in 1998,
1920.
27 years ago, Karen, you took over as executive director of the YMCA of Grand Bahama.
Yes.
And I must say that I am privileged to serve there with you as vice president of programs. So
Yes.
we have done many, many years together and very successfully. YMCA is doing phenomenally well
Thank you.
in all of the programs that we have. But today, and Javon's going to kick in soon, but today we brought you here because there is a dire need for a particular facilitation in this country with respect to teaching all of our young people to swim.
Yes.
We are in a changing time with climate change, sea level rise, and I do a kind of measurement every other week. I go down to a particular place where we do profiling of the beach under Waterkeepers Bahamas, and I have noticed that when we had some experts here from France and from Italy a couple of years ago, they told us that we were going to lose so many feet of that area. And I've been watching since then. And they anticipated that by now we would have lost about 3 or 4 feet because of sea level rise. We have lost 25 feet already.
Wow.
And this is measured by a coconut tree that was way up on the beach area, and now, which was about 30 feet from high tide. And now the ocean water is rushing up and washing out the sand. And probably in about a month or so, that coconut tree is going to turn over. So we are in a changing time now with sea level rise and climate change, et cetera. And I know the phenomenal job that you do at the YMCA. And I watch you often going there to pretend like I'm working out, old man like me. But I watch you often there working with all of those young children, et cetera. What gives you the most pride in working with our young people at the YMCA?
Mrs. Darville, it's a pleasure to be here again. And thank you so much for having me. My biggest joy, Mr. Darville, is to see them swim on their own, to see them come afraid of the water and learn to master the water and even take to a competitive level. That's the greatest joy. Outside of the water, just to see them become productive citizens of the Bahamas, persons who are now in our hospitals, in our banks. Like you, Mr. Darville, I feel honored. I feel honored when I see the children of Grand Bahama be growing into the best possible versions of themselves. That's my gratitude.
Yeah. And because of we're an island nation, we're surrounded by the ocean, and the best ocean on the planet, by the way.
Yes.
And therefore, every child and every adult should have that privilege to step into the water and to feel comfortable with it. But
Yes.
not all the children do. I want to
No.
give you one example. We took how many children we took to
About 15.
15 young people to Paradise Cove a couple of weeks ago. We normally take all of our environmental students there when every year that we have them, in order for them to be acclimated to the water there, to see what is happening with the reef balls, how we're growing corals and so forth like that. And so we all headed out, put on our gear and so forth. We were going to swim out to the reef balls. And for some reason or the other, one of the facilitators gave me the responsibility for two young people whom they were geared up to go swimming. But they got out there and the water caught them up to a little bit above the waist, a young man and a young girl, and they began to panic because they tried to, but like I told one even had a snorkel, and she was pushing the snorkel way down her throat, and then I said, "Child, you're not supposed to eat that. That's something to breathe through." But I mean, it was fascinating because neither one of them, the boy and the girl, they couldn't swim. That the first time I think they've gone out there with water above their chest.
Wow.
And so I said, okay, well, this is something for me to do here today.
Right.
So I right there on the spot where they could stand with the water just below the neck, I taught both of them how to float
Yes.
how to put the snorkel on, how to
Mm-hmm.
properly put the snorkel on. You know, the
Yes.
thing inside it, you bite on it,
Yes.
and then around the teeth, you can
Right.
breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And then how to just let yourself give
Relax.
to the water.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And within, it was like almost miraculously, not to me, but just the fact that, that's a natural ability for us. It's not when you're in a tin tub of fresh water you're going to sink.
Mm-hmm.
This is
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
salt water. You could
Yes.
float
You
on
could
it and
float.
so
Yes.
forth.
Yeah.
But
A lot of
that was
buoyancy.
absolutely. I could not even describe the beauty and the joy on their faces
Yes.
when
Yes.
all of a sudden they
Yes.
were able to
Yep.
breathe through the snorkel and the goggles they could see, and they
Yep.
were able to make strokes and to
Yep.
go out to the reef balls and to look down into the reef
That's
balls and
right.
see the fish and
Yeah.
That's right.
and things stirring. So I
Wow.
mean that type of joy, you have that all the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tell us
Yeah.
a little bit
Yes.
about that,
Yes.
especially with those
Well,
young children.
well, I can speak to two young men when they first came to. I know they don't want me to call their names, but I might in my description. They came to the YMCA and they did not want the water to touch them. There was the younger one in particular who would run away from the pool the minute he put his toe into the water.
No man, not even
He
Ito.
ran.
Mm.
His mom would have to go and get him and bring him back. See, the parents is the key as well,
Mm.
because I had two parents who were determined that their children will learn to swim. And with all the kicking and screaming,
Mhm.
scared of Uncle Mavi, don't want any KK to touch them. Eventually, because of the consistency,
Mhm.
they started to give in. So the water was able to touch the feet. But then the water wasn't able to touch the head. So that was another level. So we had to go through that. So the older of the two kind of mosey up a bit more to Uncle Mavi, but the younger one, a little wiser. And he's not going to fool with Uncle Mavi at all. In fact, he didn't want to go up but he started to do a lot of things on his own, and that was a joy to see now that, okay, the fair is gone, but now I got to get him past Uncle Mavi. But anyhow, Auntie Steve Ed came on, beautiful young girl, so that was an incentive for him. Can I tell you, the older of the two boys is on the Carifta team this year?
What?
Wow.
5 individual events. And the younger of the two is one of the top swimmers in the Caribbean in the 8 and under age group, and is slated to go again to the Goodwill Games.
And it's
as
always
knight.
it's always the ones who's scared.
Scared.
It's always the one, and they end up being, they have the most talent to do it, you know?
Frightened.
That's crazy.
But
Yes.
when I guess in overcoming that initial fear and anxiety,
Yes.
that must really boost
Yes.
their courage.
It,
And yeah, it's absolutely
it does.
amazing.
And like you said, when they can let go and learn to enjoy the water,
Yeah.
but enjoy the water with an understanding that I can help myself,
Yeah.
then I think the breakthrough, everything else is easy. Once they trust you and they get a love for it,
Mm.
everything else is easy peasy for them.
Okay.
But he's on the Carifta team,
Mm.
and a few other swimmers as well are on the Carifta team who would have came through Learn to Swim program, summer camp program, and are now doing very well for themselves in the
That's
sport.
awesome. I love to hear that. I love to hear that.
Mhm.
Now, a while ago, we came and we interviewed you for Waterkeepers Bahamas Faces of the Water, because we wanted people to talk about their experiences with water.
Yeah.
And you gave us so much good information. Like, it was so much good information. It was hard to cut stuff out. It was really hard. Just like, I just want to mention that you said because you had two parents, or the parents who were really behind the students, they kind of push the issue of getting them in the water.
Yes.
Now, on the flip side, we've also experienced some parents who'd be like, no, my child ain't getting in that water, they could drown. Because I can tell you, having our youth program, we've had children, we want to take them in the water. We want to give them that experience, but sometimes the parents are a little afraid and they're like, no. In particular, we had one student years back. She wanted to get in that, she wanted to get in that water. But the mom was like, no, she doesn't want to do it. She's afraid. She's this, she's that. So sometimes that fear is translated. But then when you see the eyes of the young ones who Mr. Darville taught to swim,
right.
that was a highlight
That's
for them.
right.
And they mentioned that at our YEA closeout.
Wow.
Like they love the fact that they were able. Like I was able to swim. I swam. They
That's right.
claim that title
That's
wholly
right.
and solely.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I
Yes.
just wanted to jump in there and endorse what you both of you said through our experience with the YEA program. Year 13, and yet a lot of the students don't know how to swim, but through coming to us, they have to get in that water, and it kind of ignites that
Yes.
process
Yes.
of getting in there,
Yes.
you know?
But it's natural for a child to enjoy the water.
Yeah.
The fears
yeah.
come from the parents.
Yeah.
They're naturally excited and gravitates to water
Yeah.
without any questions. But when the
They
parents,
transfer them.
yes, the drown and a 2-year-old, I don't want to drown.
Mm.
Where did you get that from?
Yeah.
Yeah, what a 2 year but I don't drown.
I don't
Dan, no, that's the parents' fail.
That's the parents' fear. But if the parents, we also offer an adult learn to swim class now,
Mhm.
just for the older folks.
Mhm.
A lot of females are taking advantage of that, and hopefully that would assist with the families to say, "Hey, let's get our kids swimming."
Yeah.
Yeah.
A
Well,
part thing. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. I just want to say because I had a baptism from a 20-foot cliff. A crazy uncle of mine, he was away in Canada somewhere, and he came and visited us in Long Island. I was 6 years old. So we were up on the cliff looking at the Conch Harbor, a beautiful spot on Long Island. And unknown to anything, he picked me up and he threw me off the cliff down into 25 feet of water.
Mhm. What did
Where
you do, Mr.
I
Darville?
swam.
You swam.
I had no idea because up until that time, at 6 years old, we went out into the mud, the flats, and so forth. The water was only like up above your waist, but this was 25 feet of water, and I, to this day, I mean, I was 6 years old, a little bit older now, and that
This man,
that
I tell you.
sensation on my body. And the eagerness that I was not going to die,
Yes.
that is still with me today. So anytime I get into a predicament, etc., I think of that thing. Hey, there's no big deal.
Yeah.
I survived an off
Yes.
25-foot cliff in
Yes.
25 feet of water. I can manage this. But we have so many great programs at the YMCA. Give a listen to them for
Mm.
older people, younger people,
Yes.
or competitive swimmers, etc.
Well, for swimming, summer is here, so we've started our swim programs. Like I mentioned earlier, we have our Learn to Swim program for ages 3 to 13, and that commenced on the 17th of March. We run that program Mondays through Saturdays. It's half-hour session, 3 half-hour session, 12 sessions per session, 12 classes per session. And then we also have our adult Learn to Swim, which is Mondays through Fridays, through Saturdays as well. I'm sorry. And again, adults can come as many times as they would like. We also have competitive swimming. We had quite a bit of kids out of our pool actually make the Carifta team, which is a big thing in the Caribbean.
Mhm.
In fact, we had a total of 12 that made it from our pool.
Wow.
We also have development. Once the Learn to Swim gets them swimming, we then will encourage the parents to allow them to go into stroke development because it don't have to be at a competitive level,
Mhm.
but to just have the knowledge of how to do more in the water. So
Mhm.
that's catching on. We've also had the support of the Bernie Butler, who sponsored last year 10 swimmers, and 7 of those 10 swimmers are actually in stroke development. And I've been contacted by Stacy McBride, who assured us that that support will be on board this year as well. So hopefully we can get an additional 7 kids that will benefit from that initiative. So swimming is happening at the YMCA. And then in addition to that, we have summer camp. That's where kids swim twice a day.
Twice a day.
And so most of our kids, when you see them go to summer camp
Mhm.
for the whole summer, they tend to,
Be in the water.
yes, and
I like to hear
they
that.
tend to be much more comfortable and
Mhm.
even to the point where they can go to the next level in swimming.
That's good.
Twice a day, every day, Mondays through Fridays.
So some of them come into the summer camp. Are they all uh, have some ability of swimming, or
No.
they have to be taught? Exactly,
The majority has to be taught.
have to be
The
taught.
majority
Yeah.
has to go.
Oh,
Now, the feeder system is good. I'll tell you that much because we do have kids who return. And as a result of that, we just take them to the next level. So, in addition to the Learn to Swim of summer camp, we've incorporated now the stroke development because we have that many kids continuing to enjoy the program.
That's great. I really love to hear that. Especially when I go around and when we talk to the older folks and we tell them like, hey, can you swim? And they're like, well, child. Or even like even with the children, like we ask, believe it or not, we asked those children
Global
before we went out
99.5
there,
FM
hey, who all
reminds
can
our
swim? Raise your
listeners
hand.
that the views and
Everyone
opinions
raised their
expressed on
hand.
the show are those
I
of the
realized
host
that you
and
can't
guests,
trust what they
not
say.
no,
necessarily
you can't.
the
You can't. It's
opinions
the same
of
too,
the
actually,
owners of
for
Global
the ones who
Communications
volunteered that
Network
they could.
and the operators
And
of this radio station.
and they got goggles and snorkel
I-
and flippers.
I'm sorry. I would give you a better story.
Go ahead.
So we have we have the keys.
And mind you, we had to pay for everything for that. We had to pay for the snorkel, the goggles, and the flippers.
And they just don't want the floaty.
So we have the different keys, the Disney keys, the Celebration key. We have all these different companies coming in. They're looking for lifeguards. And so they would say on these particular days, these individuals would go online, fill out the form, and then they would show up for the actual test.
I can feel where that's going.
Listen, so the YMCA swimming pool, I have to set the stage. The YMCA swimming pool is set up like this. At the step end, you have 4 feet of water. As you travel towards the fitness center, it gets deeper and deeper.
Deeper.
So you go from 4 to 5 to 6 to 8 to 10 to 12 to 14.
Frightening.
Can I tell you? They jump in for the test and can't swim. They gotta fetch them out.
Wait, who?
I call
When you
it-
say they, you mean more than 2
being
people?
trained as
More than 2 people.
lifeguards.
Lifeguards.
Lifeguard jobs that they're looking for,
Wow.
but cannot swim, but wants a job where they have to swim. And they would come out, all their gear, tie their hair up. Gentlemen say, take lane 1, take lane 1, take lane 2. I would normally say, hey, put Joseph Darville in lane 6. I know Joseph Darville could swim because the lane 6 is where you then enter the 14 feet of water. Well, can I tell you? They do jump into the water and cannot swim. So I would normally say, I call Norris Bain name so much. I was like, you know what? I tried to get Mr. Bain them to run this program. Mr. Bain said it ain't him. He got to pass it up. Because when you see a man will jump into a water and cannot swim for a job that requires swimming, as a country, we need to support that individual. We need to support that individual.
That's a darn well-paying job.
Yes. So, and
For that
a
motivation.
lifeguard pays starting salary for an entry level $12 an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you gotta get the job.
You
What?
gotta-
Your MP can't get you that job. Like,
you
no
gotta
man.
get- you have to have the ability.
So we ran a program last summer with the support of the Ministry of Youth, Sport and Culture, Mr. Norris Bain and Minister Mario Bolag. I said, hey, we can get the young men to come out. Let's start off with 10. Let's see. I want you to see that this program could actually work. And so we started off with 10. We did the assessment of 10. So I said, Mr. Bain, this can't be a lifeguard certification course because they can't swim. So we have to now divert from lifeguards
to
to learn to swim. So anyhow, the YMCA absorbed the cost for teaching them how to swim in order for them to do the certification course, for us to pay
Lord
for the
have mercy.
certification course, which the ministry paid for. But what they did do that created the environment where those individuals were able to come in on a regular basis, the required amount of times to be successful, they gave them a stipend. So now you have grown men who were able to at least feed themselves because of that stipend. And they swam 3 times a week, twice a day. It was 10.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the 10, 8 came back. And out of the 8, 6 are now on Disney Key as lifeguards.
As lifeguard.
Okay, so it's a
The
good
whole
ending to a
core-
good
yes.
story. I love that. I love that. I needed
Yes.
that.
So the Learn to Swim program for the Bahamas is so important right now.
Mm-hmm.
As
Mhm.
simple as the up in High Rock, the
Carnival.
carnival.
Mm-hmm.
What do? They need 67 lifeguards. They got 11 that I'm aware of that I saw that can actually do the job. But that's only a speck and what's needed. And so if we could reintroduce our school Learn to Swim, the powers to be that are out there, if we can reintroduce the school Learn to Swim, get our kids exposed to the ability to swim at an early age,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes easier when you start trying to fill these positions. Because the harsh reality is, if we can't fill those workloads,
They will bring in people
Well,
to fill it.
what was the cause or the reason or the justification for stopping the
well, first of all, our benefactors wanted us to run the swim program year round. Bahamians don't swim in the cold.
in the cold? No?
So that shut out the winter months. The schools would not bring the kids because we were focusing more on junior high, high school. They don't swim in the cold. Mind you, the pool is heated.
Yeah, that's right.
But the atmosphere is
Atmosphere is
cold. But they
cold.
don't swim in the cold. And then, so we focus on the primary school where we say, okay, our third, fourth, fifth, sixth grades would swim September to November because of national exams. So that will not interfere. April, May, around that time. So we'll take grades kindergarten 1 and 2 from April to June. The problem we have is the benefactors on this day, you have a fun day, nobody comes to swimming. They have some activity, then swimming is cut out.
It's the first thing to cut out
A
sometimes.
teacher did not come to school today, so swimming is cut out. And so these little hiccups started to become so normal for us. You know, we gotta say on paper that this is the attendance, and we're marking on attendance to say who's coming in. Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's something that should be obligatory. Because the fact is, we're an island nation, and many of our, I look at a situation, I'd like to quote this in Dean's Blue Hole on Long Island. A family of 4 went out there one particular day to beach, a beautiful beach by Dean's Blue Hole. And one of the children decided, because it's very deceptive, because you could walk in the water crystal clear, and you're walking on the sand in the water, and all of a sudden it dips down.
Yes.
So when you think that you could stand, you're right, the water's
Yes.
over your head.
Yes.
And one child did that, a young child that was only like 6 years old. And then one other, so the child was struggling, then another child who couldn't swim went to try to
Wow.
rescue that one. And then a parent went to rescue the 2 of them, and the 3 of them drowned in one day.
Wow.
So I want to say to our country, that should be an obligatory necessity that all of our children in this nation be taught how to swim. We are an island nation. Sea
Yes.
level is rising,
Yes.
and even the areas, for example, we're monitoring that all the time with the Waterkeepers Bahamas and so forth. And I get information from the different islands. There's a gentleman who is from Crooked Island. He works here in Grand Bahama, but he goes back to the island often in the summertime, particularly to go fishing, where he used to anchor his boat in water where he could go waist deep, and he could get his boat. Now, where he's used to anchor his boat, he has to swim there because the water is
Wow.
over his head.
Wow.
So this is the reality. We are an island
Wow.
nation, sea level rise with
Yes.
climate change, etc.
Yes.
We got to get our children. That should be an obligatory, just like English and
Basketball.
math in the
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
Swimming got to be obligatory, and I
Yeah.
think this is what the Minister of Education, a former student of mine at QC, I taught her French at QC.
Oh, wow.
She is adamant on getting this done. and we have to put all our efforts in that area,
Mm.
because 25 years from now, we don't know what the elements are going to release on our nation.
Yeah.
And for example, all of the people that drowned out in the High Rock
My
area,
Lord.
some of them, maybe if they were able to swim, they could have swum to a tree and hung onto
Yeah.
the tree,
Yes.
which some did. And
Yes.
so, we cannot neglect, we must look at the progression of our nation,
Yeah.
whether it's people-wise, or nation-wise, climate-wise, etc. And we're in changing times rapidly.
Mhm.
Like I tell you, we're losing. You ever been out
Wow.
to Williamstown here, the thing that they have out there?
Mhm.
Every year they have to move their rocks up, and now they're
Right
about
against.
25 feet further up than they were before, where the break of water was when at high tide. So these things must be noticed, and we got to adjust to that. And that's why the program that you have at the YMCA,
Mhm.
I mean, that is a godsend for
Yeah.
people, not
Yes.
just for
It is.
competitive swimming,
Yes.
Yeah.
but for survival.
Well,
Yeah.
our Learn to Swim program is going strong right now. We maximum in terms of who can come at this time.
At time, yeah.
So the parents are now understanding how important that is. But
Mhm.
is that enough? Absolutely not. That is not enough.
Mhm.
That's only a speck. We have, yes, that's it. We have too many of our children who still don't know how to swim, or
Yeah.
has not been
Agreed.
introduced to learning how to swim. As simple as being comfortable in the water.
Mhm.
If you fall into the water, like you say, in salt
Survival.
water, there's buoyancy. If you
Yeah.
were to relax, the body would automatically
Ironic,
float.
yeah.
And so these are the things that they're not even getting a chance to learn.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, I got to jump in and just ask, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Voice of the Basin Environment Speaks with Joseph Darville and myself, Javon Hunt. We have esteemed guest, Mrs. Karen Johnson here, the Executive Director of the YMCA. She's doing a lot of great works there. If you have questions about the YMCA or any of the services available, especially in learning how to swim, give us a call, 602-1033, 602-1033. We're happy to have you on. We're happy to engage with you, happy to engage with the public. And I just want to, again, piggyback on something that both of you said. At our mangrove nursery, it's right on the canal. And so this week alone, we had maybe 2 different schools come through. And I want to tell you how every time those students walk through our gates, the first thing they look at is not me, not the mangroves. They look straight to the water. And they're like, so we can get to dive today? I say, you in your school uniform, bro. You want to jump in the water? You know what I mean? And
Just
we
a
had
love
the
for
grade
it.
5 of Walter Parker. And the first thing they asked, we go by the water, we go by the water. Everybody want to go by the water. Everybody is drawn to the water,
Yes.
right? And we don't want to hear the excuses, honestly, that, oh, I can't get my hair wet, or well, today the hair have to stay for Monday, and then on Tuesday you hear, no, you gotta wait till Friday, and on Friday you hear, well, I gotta get the hair fixed for Sunday. You know what I mean? So I'm sure you told us before in our interview for Faces of the Water, you've heard it all. You've heard all the excuses. Any,
Don't
like,
wanna
what
hear
what
that.
haven't we heard?
Let me see what's the newest one. I think the swim cap. So we're teaching the lesson, and the swim cap started to right, and so the child is trying to, lose all focus on what we're trying to teach, and she's trying to pull the swim cap down. So I pulled it off and I threw it on the deck. So I said, "Hey, you'll worry about that later." She said, "No." My mommy say, "I cannot wet my hair. I just got my hair done." I said, "Listen, hold up. Mommy, she's going to wet her hair today." Mommy did the thumbs up. So I say, "See?"
Oh, good.
I'm glad you was there though,
Yes.
because the
And
children, they
mommy
will
was
get
there.
fussed out in private.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah.
I said no. So.
And I like that though, because then I like that you're doing that, and I like that they have to have an assessment, because everybody believed they could swim.
No.
I had an in-law who, she told me, like, she swear on the Bible, no, I could swim,
Yeah.
but she's never been in the water past her knees yet. But they could, in their head, they could swim.
No.
They might be like the lifeguards. I don't know.
I don't know. So I took a video of one of the lifeguards, one of the potential lifeguards. I said, "You want someone swimming like this to come out and save you?" He said, "No, mom." I said, "Okay then." this job ain't for you. If you're really serious about this job, you got to learn the craft. You got to come out and you got to put the work in. That is only one aspect. We've had a number of young men who would have came out, who saw that more had to be done and take advantage of using the facilities. Of course, there's only so much I can do every day.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
try my very best to help because once I bring in other instructors, they got to live.
Yeah.
So I
You
have
be
to
paid.
pay.
Mhm.
I have to pay them. So I try to create the avenue where you can speak directly with the instructors and they will charge you and you can get your lessons. Yes.
You know, I know we only have you for a certain amount of time because oddly enough, Bahamas, she has to go and teach the class at 5 o'clock at the YMCA. But I just want to talk a little bit about one of our former YEAs, your son Marvin. Like I follow him online, I follow him on social media, and I'm so proud. Like when I see him holding up the Bahamian flag in the pool, or when I remember him when he was yay high and this little short little thing, and now he like I guess over all our head.
Oh yeah.
So tell me, what's he doing in races and all that stuff?
Marvin has aged out of Carifta. His last Carifta year was last year. He left for the bank. He said he won, and he's hoping that this year the team will be just as successful.
Mhm.
Marvin is a competitor. I saw that from day one. You know, like you can see in.
Well, mommy will know.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mommy can know.
But I must be a mom for everyone, boy, because I can see it.
Mm.
I would try to encourage the parents. Look, don't give up on it. Continue, and they'll be like, the child will go missing, and then 2 or 3 years later, they want to show back up. The child is now 13, 14. I'm like, man, you missed that opportunity. You missed that. I'm talking about they still can enjoy the water. They still can learn how to swim. But that
competitive
grit,
yeah,
you didn't nurture that.
Yeah.
Like you should have. And
Yeah.
so my husband and I, the one thing that we did do is nurture Marvin's competitive spirit.
Mhm.
But if you know Marvin's father,
Marvin
now,
Senior.
I think I'm competitive too, right? But I think,
Oh, Lord.
oh my God, between the two of them, I don't play at all. You know, similar as eating food. Let's race. No. You race with your
Playing a
dad,
win.
not with me.
Yeah.
And Marvin is now currently in Macaulay Boarding School,
Mhm.
and he will be graduating in May. And he has successfully secured a full 4-year ride
Woo!
at the University of Florida under Coach Nesty, who was the Olympic coach for the U.S. team last year.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Marvin,
So
when
he
you
is-
listening to this, just know.
Boy, listen to that, Marvin. God, I
Yeah,
can
good
remember
job.
he was a tiny
Congratulations.
little boy like this at the
With a
YMCA.
lot of energy.
I can tell you, had I not been at the YMCA, I don't know if Marvin would have been afforded the opportunities that he is now embracing,
Mm.
because the YMCA was an environment where he was allowed to grow. You know,
Yeah.
he would
That was his backyard.
Go to the swimming pool, come out the swimming pool. From swimming, then he'll go on the field with Coach Kim. He'll run back. Mommy, Coach Kim is there, and he'll run back out on the swimming pool. Then there was cycling. He was with those distinguished men, Mr. Thompson and his peers, and he was always in an environment where athletic and responsible men.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
men who were trying to make a difference in the community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that I think all of that just harnessed into who he is right now.
Yeah.
He said to me that I said to him the other day, you know, I got a little aggressive. He called me at 7 o'clock to tell me that he wasn't going to practice at 7 o'clock. I'm like, you can't call me at 7 o'clock and tell
Tell
me
me
you're
you don't
going
go
to
to
practice.
practice at 7.
That's not like you plan like you're not going. If your alarm went off at 6:30, I should have gotten that call at 6:30 to say, hey, mommy, I'm not feeling well.
So,
And
but
then
where was he?
he's in school.
At school, and he called you to tell him.
Oh, yes, Mr. Darville.
Mommy don't play, boy. Mommy don't play.
Yes. He's trying
Don't
to
mind
use
that smile, boy.
he's trying to use his dad as a buffer for me. I tell his dad, not now. I'll talk about that later. So we have that relationship, and he knows that there's a level of excellence that we expect from you.
Mhm.
You're in the midst of billionaires' children,
Mhm.
but you did not come from a
From that,
billionaire.
yeah.
Yeah.
But you are a quality of a
Mhm.
billionaire.
Yeah.
Yes. So don't get
You
lost.
afforded the opportunity.
Know what is at home. because the only way that landscape is going to change if you do something
Yeah,
differently.
agreed.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of young people out there right now who's about to plunge into the world, into this other world, because the Bahamas is small,
Hmm.
and I want to encourage parents to stay close, stay on top of what's happening. Don't leave them by themselves
Hmm.
because they're still kids.
Yeah,
Marvin is
Yeah.
now 19, and I still have to get that call.
He's
Yeah.
19 years old and
19
still
years.
calls
Oh,
you.
he still have to call me.
Yeah.
And right now it's not even a fight.
Uh-huh.
And if I call and I don't get an answer, I do an emoji face and I'll get a call back. Mommy, what's the face for? I say, hey,
Yeah, but you groomed that in him. You know what I mean? So it's easy for him to follow because you
Yes.
trained him
Yes.
from young to
Yes.
this is what you do,
yes,
right?
yes. And just to know good characters.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Yeah.
And swimming, Marvin, we were playing in the swimming pool with Marvin from about 6 months. And when I saw Marvin, when his dad will throw him to me in the pool and I would throw him back to his dad. And his dad allowed him to feel the water a little bit, let him go down.
Let him go, yeah.
And when I saw him float up on his own,
On his own.
and this 6 months, we were throwing him and then we would help him up. And this one particular time, boy, and I saw him come up and breathe. And then he went back
I
down.
went down. Oh,
By
my God.
himself.
By himself.
6 months.
6 months old.
Now we started a parent and me class. We have a volunteer, YMCA volunteer, who's relocated to Grand Bahama. It's once a week, and it's only an introductory level, a level where parents could come into the water. She would show them what to do in the water, and it's just
Yeah,
so.
it has to be now. I'm going to get off here a little bit, but when a child is in the womb, they're in water,
Yeah.
Yes,
and so
Yes.
that brings my
yes,
awareness to the fact that maybe that same thing, and a lot of people give birth in the water. So the child, when the child comes out of the womb, is actually in the water.
yes.
So, this should all motivate people. What, before I forget, what are the needs on Grand Bahama and the Bahamas generally in terms of being able to cater to all of our children having the ability to swim? Let's look at Grand Bahama. Like,
Well,
do we have sufficient facilities, pools, and people to do it?
I don't know the whole scope, but I've heard sip that Bahamas government is doing their due diligence in trying to get a 50-meter pool here in Grand Bahama. Is it a pool for learn to swim? I don't know. I can't say any community pool, but I do know that the YMCA is there. I do know that the way to get all our kids swimming, believe it or not, is through the schools.
Mhm.
Those parents who are going to bring their kids to swim, I can tell you, they're bringing those kids to swim. Those kids who parents are not bringing the kids to swim, we have to go through the schools
Mhm.
in order to get them to their lessons.
Mhm.
And it cannot be once a week. It has to be an environment where we can touch them for a minimum of twice a week and twice a week consistently.
Mhm.
It can't be, they gotta, and the worst is when track and field time.
Mhm.
Track and field is 80 kids, and the whole school can't go to swimming because they gotta do track and
Track
field.
and field.
And those little things we got.
But having just one learn to swim pool, I know Freeport High has a pool,
Yes.
and
And
but
And-
we need more pools, don't we?
yes, we do. What we have done in the past is we've provided the instructors for Freeport High and Sunland. We created the environment to ensure that the staff that is there knows exactly what it is
Mhm.
we are looking for. We created the environment where it was a part of their physical education grade.
Uh-huh,
So that worked because we had the whole BMES school and we had the whole Sunland school.
Mhm.
And then the YMCA catered to Walter Parker, Freeport Primary, and Hugh Campbell.
uh-huh.
And then we even had High Rock who would come down. And so we had that going. But of course, funding is the key.
Yeah.
When you're talking about swim instructors, they have to be paid. You may have one or two volunteers, but the bulk of the expenses in paying our instructors.
Mhm.
Swimming is a profession where you can do well for yourself.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
So I know we kind of pressed for time and you soon have to leave. So I wanted to get us a quick picture before Miss Johnson has to go.
Let me pull over on the
Pull
side.
over.
Side here a little bit.
Yes.
That- that class so record.
Yes,
Yes,
almost.
yes.
How many clocks in here go too
Yes.
fast, man?
And if we don't do the learn to swim, at least let's get into the schools for junior high. Junior high, let's say grade 9. So we'll have grade 9, 10 to work with them,
Mhm.
get their certifications in grade 12. And then when they leave school with a lifeguard certification that they can
Yeah.
Yeah,
go and
readily employed.
yeah.
Mhm. Like
But
with our-
looking at the sports center, is that a proper venue to have a pool for learn to swim and competitive swimming?
Well, Mr. Darville, I think the ministry is doing what needs to be done to ensure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, because that was a flood zone area.
Oh, that's
That
right.
that
Yeah,
did take
yeah.
on water
Oh man, yeah.
after Hurricane Dorian,
Mm-hmm.
during Hurricane Dorian. So all of that, I'm sure they're taking
Mhm.
a look at and doing what is necessary to make sure they don't wake up one morning and half of the pool is gone.
Mm.
Wow.
Wow.
So
Wow.
they're doing their work.
Okay.
From what I'm gathering, they're doing the researches to ensure that
But we had flood at the YMCA too, didn't we?
we had maybe for the water.
Oh, for the water.
I was told that we were on a terrain, so the water ran around us.
Around it, yeah.
Yeah, but we had a foot of
Well,
water.
we were lucky.
Yeah, we were lucky.
Really,
We're very
really
lucky.
there.
Mm.
Yeah, we had less damage for Hurricane Dorian than what we had for Jane and Francis.
Jane and
Yeah,
Francis,
because I remember
that's
that
correct.
rip up the
Yeah,
gym.
Francis
Yeah,
brought us to our knees.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah, there was so much uncertainty.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That came to take the
Now,
buildings down.
what came in Hurricane Dorian for us was there was this mucky, it was almost like sewer that came into the building because there was a scent and it was dark, and so because of that we had to cut out a lot of the old people say rock sheet. Sheet rock.
That was
Yeah.
all the carbon.
Yeah,
That's a question in the mud.
Oh boy, it's in the building.
And
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
A real
yeah.
bad scent.
But and yeah,
Yeah.
when we go out to plant mangroves, if we come back with that scent too,
Oh wow.
yeah, it don't
That-
leave you,
you
son.
go down there, you could
It
pass
don't
out.
leave you.
If sometimes we go collecting propagules from some of the inland areas
Uh-huh.
because of the sequestration of the carbon. You go down, you breathe that stuff out, you almost pass out.
Wow.
It
was that bad,
It just
Mr.
doesn't
Darville.
smell bad. It makes you feel horrible.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Darville, I thought it was feces. That's what I thought it was. I thought it came
well,
from the
it's probably a
sewers.
mixture of that. Too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's important that the Bahamas take a more aggressive approach. I know that the Sean O'Connell Foundation is doing a lot of things in Nassau in terms of the Learn to Swim with Bahamas Aquatics, Mr. Cobble and his team. But my passion is Grand Bahama. This is my home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So I really would like to see those programs come into play where every child in Grand Bahama
Could
has the
swim.
opportunity
Has the
Mhm.
ability,
to learn
has
how
the
to swim.
occasion, yeah, to
Will
learn.
all learn at the same pace?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. But for those who can and do it immediately, let's get them in it.
Yeah.
Let's get them moving.
Yeah.
Let's make sure that if there's 100 kids and 95 of them can learn to swim, let's get the 95 swimming. We'll take our time and work with the 5.
Mhm.
Even if we have to bring them on to the Learn to Swim in the evenings where there's a smaller setting. But let's get the 95 going.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's good. Yeah.
My God.
Mhm.
What is
Yeah.
it going to take for us?
Well,
Another
Karen, we
match.
know
Any
that you have
final
to
words?
go right now because you are called to the
Yes,
YMCA.
I am headed to the YMCA.
So-
My little darlings are waiting for
Their
me.
daughters are waiting for
Yes,
you.
they are.
Ah,
And yes, they are. They're sitting and waiting for me on the bench. So I have to now depart.
Any final words on your way? Out?
Parents, don't be discouraged. Do what you have to do as a parent to ensure that your child learns to swim. If it means going to those town meetings, coming to the YMCA and pleading your case, let's get those kids in the water.
Yeah.
It could save
What
them.
Yeah.
Swimming is the only sport
Yeah,
that can literally save your life.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We ain't have no big animals to run from, so they can't say track to save your life. But if you swim fast enough, you can outswim that shark.
Irelandization is like obligatory to
Yeah.
have math and English, etc.
Yeah.
You should have the ability to swim.
Yeah.
That is something.
Yeah.
all water. Every inch of the island you turn to, there's water.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, Karen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, if you're
Sorry.
interested in calling the YMCA, because our numbers have changed,
Mhm.
our number is now 810-2955.
Say it again.
810-2955.
2955.
Yes.
All right, I wrote it down. We'll
There
announce
you
it
go.
again.
I could remember that.
All right, Mrs. Johnson, thank
so
you.
much. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Drive safe. So now it's just us fellas here. And Shelly, sorry. I'm scared.
What will we gonna do?
Well, I just want to encourage everyone. We talking about creating a nation of swimmers. We really need that to happen. Summer is coming up. Like, you're gonna be spending a lot more time on the beaches. You're gonna be in pools. You already see, especially in Grand Bahama, how hot it is in the daytime. It's really hot, and sometimes the only thing that could cool you down is to jump in the water. That's the only economical way to cool down, because I will see them power bills from turn on the AC 24/7. So that is a great start for you. Go head on over to the YMCA. The number is 810-2955, and get in one of their learn to swim programs. Like, we won't be like Uncle Joe, uncle would throw him off that 24-foot cliff at 6 years old without batting an eye, right, Uncle Joe? 'Cause
That's right.
that's
yeah.
crazy. That's crazy. And we would say it as a joke sometimes. Like, folks, I had a lot of older folks telling me how their parents or uncles or whoever family member just take them in the boat and throw them over, and that's how they learn how to swim. We have better ways to learn how to swim these days, so we ain't gonna do that. We ain't gonna kill nobody children. So head on over to the YMCA and get in one of those learn to swim programs, even as adults. As adults, imagine learning how to swim as an adult, eh, Uncle Joe?
Yeah. Well, I could tell another story. I look back, and I had a brother uncle, because I
Mhm.
grew up with my grandparents, and all they had 10 children. I was the 11th one.
Mhm.
So I grew up with the last four, and one of them was Harry, my older brother uncle. So he and I used to go fishing a lot,
Mhm.
and sailboat. He had a sailboat. And we used to go about 5 miles down in a key on the weekends to do our fishing overnight, and we would. Make a fire in a little key, Jim's key, we call it, and we would cook our fish and stuff that we caught
Mhm.
with Johnny cake, etc., grits, and we would have.
You would bake it out there, do
meal.
all that out there.
So one good old Friday afternoon after school. Back in those days, we had school only until midday, and then I ran all the way home. And Harry, my brother uncle, be ready. He said, "Boy, get your stuff. We're going." He said, go out, sailing down to go to Jim's Key out of the Bay Area there, and all of a sudden, Harry sees this huge turtle. He said, "Boy, that's some good meat on that turtle." He said, when I can't, he said, it was too windy. I can't jump overboard now. I probably was like 10. And so he brings the boat up to the side of the turtle and sailing along. And he said, "Now, when this turtle blow again, you jump and you grab him. Hold him on the side of the neck."
Mhm.
Well, boy, I did that. He brought her, and that turtle dove under the water, sucked in my hands around on the side of his neck, and he must have gone about 200 feet underwater
That's what I feel like.
with me.
To a 10-year-old.
Well, I thought I was gone.
Yeah.
And then finally, the turtle came up out of the water to breathe, and my hands were released, and Harry comes up, and of course the turtle went off because he was so afraid that I had drowned. So Harry comes up and he said, "Boy, get in the boat now." He said, "Don't you dare tell Mama what I asked you to do." But those experiences that we had as little boys growing up, man, listen.
Those near-death experiences.
Yeah. Every time I see a turtle and they come to breathe and I see that neck go up,
Bring back memories.
My
It's that
fingers do
generation. You know what? I've heard stories of people who panic. Like, I had a family, not like, distant family member. They were talking about, as a group of little kids, they would go on a bay and just jump in the water. And like we were talking earlier, everybody, when you ask them, they could swim. Everybody could swim. Everybody could swim. Till that water get to your neck. So when the water get to this dude neck, he just latch like something. His animal brain just kick in, and he latch on to the nearest
Oh,
person.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
That grip,
Oh, definitely.
and he was screaming to the top of his lungs. And a drowning person strong, man. He was small, and the other person was big, but he had such a grip on this dude
Yeah.
that they were already up to the neck, and they was trying to like breathe because they was to the neck. Now this dude say he could swim. He latched onto him, and the only way for them to get him to like loose him, because he was screaming so much, is to dip down in the water. When they dip down in the water, all that screaming, and he let go and push up to the water, and they drag him close. And they say, "But I thought you could swim." He said, "Yeah, I could swim. I could swim in water when I could walk it." So if they can, so Bahamians, man, like how do you get, how do you judge whether these people could swim? You know what she say? That story can stay with us for a long time. You going for the lifeguard test and you can't swim? You know what they have to do as lifeguards? Like they tell them to swim the test. Like I used to work to the hotel, and in order to keep qualifying, the lifeguards periodically have to do laps. They have to get tests to recertify, and it's almost, I don't know if it's a monthly basis, but they do internal checks. So you have to swim laps in this pool and beat a certain time. So you that's stamina. That's, you know, they have to keep going and going and going. You have to keep it up, but you can't jump in right away and can't swim. That make no sense to me. I know. I make no. That can stick
Well,
with me for a long time. Baby.
Maybe they were thinking about a wading pool or something. If someone slipped.
But that's crazy.
But you know, seriously, parents who are listening, please, if you have a child 3 years and older, have that child take lessons to swim. It may save that child's life or somebody else's life in the future. Because the fact is that live on an island nation, and we have all of these glorious beaching days that we have. And you should be able, without fear or anxiety, to take your children out there. Like I see here on Grand Bahama quite often, children out there on the beach, like Williamstown, places like that. They're out in the water, enjoying themselves. So we want our children to enjoy that. And for example, what we go further with that, tell us what we do with our cadets in our program.
Well,
Waterkeeper cadets.
In order to be a cadet, after passing through our youth program, in order to be a cadet,
but you now have to know how to swim.
You you have to be willing to be scuba certified. Like if you're not willing to be scuba certified, or if your parents ain't want you to be scuba certified, maybe the cadets ain't for you. But we encourage everyone, every single cadet has to be scuba certified. Some of the students who pass through our program, the cadet program, they now celebrating their 150th dive.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, I feel bad because I ain't break my 10th dive yet, but they on 150. You know what I mean? And once they're introduced to it through Fred and Melinda, who great instructors, like they really take it and run with it. And so now they exploring parts of the Bahamas that the average person don't get to see under the water. And it's a whole environment there that is beautiful. That, you know, we ain't gonna ask certain people on the side of me, because once they get under there, they get lost.
Well, it is so wonderful, and I'm not suggesting people do this, but it was 90 feet down under there, with sharks going over top of you and under you and so forth, and you feel so incredibly safe and sound. You're just going and going and going. Next thing I know, someone is pulling on my leg. Look at that thing. So my air was running out at the 90 feet down. But I mean, you could get lost on it. Is so magnificent,
literally
beautiful. But we're not going to take your children out to 90 feet now. We're going to take them out 8-10 feet. But the ones who do it are cadets. That is part of
they do the 50 feet first, and then they do the 100 feet,
then the
stuff.
90 feet, and that's all.
Which ain't bad.
Which where these big, like what do you call those places? Big high ridges and so forth in the water,
underground,
under the water or something. That used to be the coastline of Grand Bahama.
Yeah,
ages ago, and now it's down to 90 feet.
Yeah, you see the evidence of it.
So these islands, they've been underwater. I mean, on Long Island, for example, Miller's Hill, When we're crabbing is out of season, we go up there looking for crabs in the rock holes. The sill is like 35, 40 feet high. We dig down into the rocks. Conch shells are buried in the rock, which
Mhm.
means that that hill was under the ocean
Yeah.
many, many centuries ago.
So we
You
have a
know,
few announcements. I know we're on our last 3 minutes, so I just want to
go
say
ahead,
these
man.
announcements. This is from the Humane Society. Hey, parents, get ready to save big at Second Chance Secondhand Shop. This weekend only. This weekend only. We're slashing prices to 75% on all baby accessories and kids' toys, from car seats to stuffed animals. You'll find everything your little ones need at unbeatable prices. And here's the best part. Every penny you spend goes straight to the Humane Society, helping furry friends find their forever homes. Hurry into Second Treasures thrift store tomorrow, Saturday, April 12th. Shop smart, save big, and support a possum cause. Yeah, that was a good play on words.
And then
Possum cause.
tell me, we're right across from the bazaar.
Yeah,
That
right
new
across from the bazaar, y'all. Next to the new club that's on the corner. Well, it used to be
yeah,
the pub on the
whatever.
mall. Yeah, thanks for that. It used to be the pub on the mall. And also tomorrow, we're having Waterkeepers Bahamas. We're
Oh
partnering with
yeah.
Keep Grand Bahamas Clean, and we're going to be out at Dover Sound tomorrow for a cleanup at 9 a.m. A lot of debris is washed up on the coastline.
The
Um,
banks of the
yeah, the
waterway.
banks in that canal system, and we're going to be there. Our boat is going to be there, and we're going to be collecting a lot of the debris that's floating from somewhere. And so we need your help. We need you to come on out. Students that need community service, organizations that want to help and participate, come on out to Dover Sound tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. and help us collect all this trash and cart it on out of there.
Okay, we'll be taking teams to different areas of
Yeah.
the embankment of the canal,
Yeah.
the waterway, and well, they know where to assemble, right? By the
Yeah,
boat
it's
dock.
gonna be right by the block, by where
Because-
the rocks, by the drop off. That's where we're gonna be unloading and cleaning up that particular area. A lot of people go there and fish, and so a lot of debris is in those areas. So we have to clean all that up.
Yeah, and that's about for 3 hours.
So 2 or 3 hours we'll be
3
out there.
hours,
So
from
so
9.
show up, especially if you need community service. We'll be out there. Check our social medias because we've been posting about it for weeks. On every platform is 242 Waterkeepers. So check us out. We'll be out there. Check out the Second Chance Secondhand Shop and follow us and find out all the good stuff that's happening. So
Yeah,
that's our time.
Come out tomorrow morning, get a little ride on our waterkeeper boat.
We'll
We'll dump you on the side canal thing, and you can pick.
throw you off and make you swim back.
No, we will not subject you to any hazard. We'll come right up to the bank, and you could crawl off onto the rocks and pick up some garbage and put it in the boat, and we bring you back safely to the boat drop. So we'll